All right, we're still missing a couple people, but I think I'm going to get started. What you should see on the screen right now, hopefully you do, and I also emailed it to you as an attachment today, is the hands-on test for units 4 and 5. The time, you've got until tomorrow at 4:25 to turn it in. I don't know why it says 4 p.m. there, but it should have said 4:25. As long as it's, try to get it in if you can, but get it in by the end of class. So as I said, some people in this class seem to struggle with these HOTS, so I tried to create one that hopefully you'll be able to do. Now, this is the first time there are no pictures. Everything that you do is up to you. In other words, the total design is the design on your part. The fonts you use, the colors you use, the size that you make your different controls, etc. That's all up to you. I want you to create an Android app. Like I said, call it Zodiac. The user should, at a minimum, you should have 3 edit texts in there. One that will hold the birth month, one that will hold the birth day, one that will hold the birth year. Now, it's only valid if the birth month is between 1 and 12. The year, yeah, I do want you, it's going to take a little bit of work, but I do want you, if it's one of the 6 months, I think it is, that I have between 1 and 31 days in it. There's 5 months that have between 1 and 30, and then there's the goofy month of February that may or may not have a leap year. And this asterisk means I do want you to account for leap years. It's not really a lot of code to do that. All right. And for the year should be somewhere between 2020 and 130 years ago. So if I try to come in there and put in the year 10, it should give me an error. If I put in 2021, it should give me an error, etc. If I put in 2000 for the year, it should say that their age is 20 years old or 19, depending upon whether or not they've had their birthday. Add some kind of a validate date button. All right. When you click it, if any of these 3 fields are invalid, print out a toast explaining what's invalid. For instance, if you didn't put anything in the birth month field, the toast should say you must enter a value for the birth month. Or if you put in a value less than 1 or greater than 12, it should have a message saying that. Now, please make sure that when you do this, you set the type up for all 3 of these edit text fields to number. All right, so that they only accept integers. Once you've got a valid birthday and you check the valid button, figure out the day of the week the person was born on. For example, I was born on a Wednesday. How do I know that? I went and checked the calendar. All right, but there are ways to do this. The URL here is a little bit dated, but notice what it says. You can determine the day of the week by passing in a specific date. That's the way I did it. But there are other URLs out there. You can Google it, etc. Finally, as it says here, add 2 buttons somewhere on the screen. Again, this is your design. I'm not telling you where to put the buttons, etc. I'm not telling you any of that stuff. All right. So add 2 buttons, a clear button and a Zodiac button. When the clear button is clicked, basically those 3 edit text fields that are in there, they should be cleared out. All right. And the focus should be on the birth month edit text field. Okay. This button for a Zodiac should be disabled until you put in a valid date. Once you put in a valid date, go to another screen. How are you going to do this? That's up to you. Probably the easiest way to do this is to set yourself up some arrays or something. All right, probably arrays that, like maybe one array that will hold the Zodiac, the pictures of each Zodiac thing, one that would hold the names, and one that would hold a little bit of a write-up about each one. And you can find those all over the place online. All right. But when you go to this Zodiac screen, as it says, it should have a professional image on it. All images should basically be the same size. So in other words, whether you're a Sagittarius or a Scorpio or whatever, they should pretty much be the same size in there, all right? And again, a description of persons born under that. You don't have to use the recycler view. If you want to and can figure out how to use the recycler view, go ahead and do that. The rubric for this, as it says here with the details, I already mentioned the app should only accept whole numbers for month, day, and year. All right, so no sign, no decimal point. The rest of the details are in the requirements. As far as the grading rubric, I tried to set this up so even if you had problems with the zodiac part, you could get the majority of the points. Notice what it says. The controls are laid out in a professional manner. That means on both pages, they should look professional. Add an image to the main page and a title to the main page. You determine what the image is, how big it is, where it goes. You determine the title. All right. Second, the interface implements all the requested functionality on the previous page. Third, any invalid date is handled according to the specifications. All right. Notice we just went over that on the previous page. Fourth, the day of the week is calculated correctly when the verify date button is pressed for a valid date. Just for the heck of it, I went out and I put in July 4th, 1976, the 200th anniversary, and that said it was a Sunday. So I went back out and actually brought up a calendar online for July 1976, and sure enough, it said it was a Sunday. All right. I want the text for all labels, all buttons, etc. stored in strings.xml. Now, for whatever reason, some of you don't do that. So I've made it worth 20 points. It, again, is not hard to do. So any label that you put in there, any button you put in there, anything that you put in there that's going to have a predetermined value, put the actual string for that into the strings.xml file. Don't code like under the name or the text for the button, don't code it in there. That should have a reference to @string / something. All right. The program shows off a well-written toast when there's any kind of error condition. So in other words, if what you screwed up in was the month, it should say something like illegal birth month entered must be between 1 and 12 or something like that. All right. Performs a well-written toast when everything is correct. What you're supposed to do is if everything is correct, you say, for example, you are 20 years old, you were born on a Tuesday, something like that. This next one, it shouldn't look funky on the emulator. And what that means is the stuff should be lined up so that it looks professional. It shouldn't look like you just threw it against the wall to see what sticks type of thing. Next, professional looking fonts. You can use Material Design. You can use any font you want. The question, I guess, then the natural is, well, can we use the built-in one? I'd rather have you change and use some other type of font. Same thing with the colors. You should go into the colors.xml file and you should, at a minimum, change what's used for the primary, the secondary, etc. colors. And again, if you go out to the Material Design site, you can get some information on that. I did send you, Chris Hardy had asked me for some help on that. Now, there's tons of stuff out there, all right? And there are some out there, there's some 5, 10, 15-minute videos on Material Design. Maybe one of those would help. I've still been going through the one that's got like 40 lectures in it. It's very well done, but it's, for lack of better words, it's a little dry. All right. Finally, the last two things, the app looks, acts, and reacts in a professional manner. There shouldn't be any surprises. If you have abided by, let's just say, the requirements that were put in there previously, you shouldn't have any problem with that. And going along with that, again, all requirements have been followed. So the last note that I put in there, as it says, if you totally get confused, do what you can do. try to do something. What I don't want is this thing is worth 400 points. I don't want anybody in here to turn in a blank, or where you just create the project and you put no code in it at all. At a minimum, draw the interface. All right, notice if you draw the interface, you're going to get some points. You should be able to do that first page literally with I'm not going to say without any problems, but you should understand how to do the majority of it. The hardest thing is going to be figuring out how old somebody is, all right, and figuring out the day of the week they were born on. But if you can get that stuff done, you're going to have a lot of the points right here, all right? So as it says, at a minimum, try to at least implement the first page of the app, add an intent, and add a second activity if that's the way you're going to do it, so you can get as many points as you possibly can. Now, I did tape this. A couple of you came in a little bit late, but it's only about 10 minutes long or so. The rest of the period today is lab. At the beginning of class tomorrow, all I'm going to do is get on with you and just say, are there any questions either on the test or on anything else? We don't have class Friday. I think by now you all know that. And next Monday, I am going to lecture, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff that's in Unit 9. All right? If there are not any questions, that's all I had for you today. Any questions? All right, then again, I will be on here tomorrow to ask if there's questions. Otherwise, I will talk to you again in earnest on Monday. Thanks. Are you still on, Chris? Do you have any questions? Because otherwise I'm going to stopping the share, and I'm going to stop the meeting right now. So.